in section 3 we're going to explore scenes. So just to start, you can see next to the Uni icon it says sample scene. And if you ever want to save your scenes, you can actually do save scenes here. Pretty much think about save scenes like saving in any other project. So if we have a bunch of different 3D objects and things here, it's going to save all the current states of that inside of your hierarchy. So let's get a little organized. Come down here to the project window. We're actually going to create some folders. So this is going to be our playground, but we can make folders inside of our playground as we go through these Unity lessons. So what we're going to make is a folder called It's Raining Shapes, and then we're going to make an assets folder inside of there. And from that we will kind of go. So I'm going to do create folder. I'm going to call it It's Raining Shapes. And then inside of that, double click on that. I'm going to create another folder. Call it Assets. And double click inside of there. And I'm going to do one last folder. And as you start creating a bunch of assets, you'll see this will get filled up really fast. So a way to kind of keep your scenes on top is to put an underscore there. And then I'll call it scenes. So that'll be first because the underscore is there. So if I add a bunch of images and 3D models, this will always be first because I have the underscore there. So with that, we can go ahead and kind of explore kind of our scene. I mentioned this in the previous video. If you look at our sample scene, you have main camera, you also have our directional light. So inside of our scenes, we're going to make a new scene. And this is going to be all about our It's Raining Shapes. So I'm going to go here, create. I'm going to go to scenes, and you can see how, let's just call it Raining Shapes Scene. So you can see you can have a bunch of different scenes, and if I double click on it, you can see now I have that up here. And as we go on in the future, we'll do the same thing in our playground. We'll make more folders, we'll make scenes that we can kind of do it. So now that I have my It's Raining Scenes, on every scene you see there is a main camera and directional light. If there is no light, then obviously you won't be able to see anything. So like, think of this as the sun. And then you have your camera here, so you can readjust this depending on the aspect that you want. Remember in our VR, you can look everywhere. So we want to place our camera in a position where our users that are going to be experiencing the apps and games that we make, they should be able to scroll and pan everywhere and see content around them. So one of the things that you don't want to kind of confuse is the scene and the main camera. So the scene is what you in Unity will see. It's what your overall view of how you can create this stuff. The main camera is actually what your view hierarchy sees. So when you're a player inside of the game or the VR experience that we will be making, this is what they will actually see. So these two are actually not the same. This is what your player or your VR experience will be. They will see. This is actually you as the developer inside of Unity. If you double click on the main camera, you can see it centers itself inside of the main screen. So some of you students will be using your laptops with Unity, and if you do, I strongly suggest having a mouse, because the mouse allows you to use some of the interactions with the scene editor. For example, you can use the scroll. You can see here I'm scrolling on my mouse. So I am on my MacBook, but I have just a regular mouse connected to it. Also, what you can do, if you click and hold the middle button, so it's kind of the scroller, you can see I can pan around like this. That's your scroll button. I call it the middle button. Other things you can do, if you hold down your right, you can see it changes your view, so it becomes an eye, right? So this is just me holding down the right mouse button. Definitely want to play with that. Now also, here's some keyboard shortcuts. This will make you a professional Unity guy. Once we get really deep into Unity, you want to kind of remember these. So your left hand, you're going to have WASD. On the keyboard, these are all next to each other. You have A, S, and D. Then you have your W above that. And there's going to be some keys around that we'll talk about in a little bit. But if I simply right click and if I push A, you can see I go to the left. If I push D, I go to the right. If I put S, I can zoom out. If I push W, I can zoom in. So just holding the right mouse button, I can actually kind of pan around my scene. And again, we're making all these 3D environments, so you're going to have to change the angles. These are some really crucial and vital and important hotkeys that you can use to kind of help you. You can kind of see like everything on the bottom looks brown, and then up here is kind of the sky. They call that the skybox. I mean, you can change that. Say you wanted a night sky, but this is going to kind of be the default. So pretty much we're done with this video. This was section 3, just exploring scenes. What we did here is we actually added some folders down here. We made a new scene, and then we learned some hotkeys, talked about the main camera and the scene, the overall scene view, and we did some scrolling in like this. If I hold my middle button, I hold my right button, I can look around like this. If I hold my right button and I go with my hotkeys left, right, which is A and D, or S and W, lets me zoom in and out. Go ahead to the next video where we actually will start to build something. We will use game objects, which are the fundamental aspect of Unity. You use game objects to interact with each other, to code, and that's where we're going to really start getting into it. Thanks for watching the video, and move on to the next one.